No, let me just check the audio because I forgot to check. Hello. Oops, it works. All right. I don't know why I keep forgetting, but I do. It's been a crazy busy week, people. Really, really busy running around doing a lot. 2 days of working on nothing but our new mystery quilt. This is just the beginning. This is going to be something tiny to get your feet wet, free of charge. Um, but you can make it bigger by doing additional blocks. But then we're going to have a much bigger. This is a 1 day of mini mystery quilt, but maybe it's more than 1 day. I don't know. My brain is fried. But then come July, we're going to have a much bigger mystery and a much bigger quilt. It's going to be fun. I'm going to try it. Um, I hope you like it, but spent 2 days working on new web page for it and getting everything that I need to get done for it. I'm gonna be creating a new Facebook group just for the mystery quilt on Monday. Plus I had orders come in and Chris's doctor's appointment yesterday, which did not go according to plan because I thought we were going to he was going to get fitted, measured for a new socket for his prosthetic, but no, that didn't happen. But they did adjust his prosthetic and hopefully it's adjusted enough that he can use it and get back into a routine of learning to walk and stand. Um, but then we've got to make an appointment for his new vascular doctor. He might have to have another surgery on his leg to fix it a little bit. Yeah, loads of fun. So, needless to say, it's been one of those weeks, but I got a lot done this week, so I'm happy about that. All right, today we are working on Symphony Block 19 and 20. And they're really cute. And I have a whole new technique for you to learn. We're going to be using the split rex ruler, rex, yeah, whatever. So it is what it is. But I want to show you what we're going to do. Hold on. I just need a sip of something. Been warm too, and my allergies are kicking my butt. I've been sneezing up a storm. Not fun. All right. This is block 19, and I'm going to show you how we do these side rec pieces exactly as big as you need them. And I know it's not difficult, but with the tools, the Studio 180 rulers, it really does, whoops, make everything much easier. Okay. So I don't know if you're gonna be able to see, but this is the split rec ruler. You've got your finishing cut trimming over here, and you've got your corner cuts here. So one of the key things with this ruler is for both sides of this cut, okay? We have them done so that they're mirror images. They're mirror cuts, okay? In order to do that, you want your fabrics either right side together or wrong side together, folded, like you would off the bolt. If you want them all going in the same direction, then you're just going to lay it out like this, and you're going to cut either right side up or right side down, wrong side down. That's how you'll cut it. By cutting them folded like this, right sides together or wrong sides together, you're going to get mirrored cuts. I hope that makes sense. In order to do this, now this is smaller than I were used here, but I'm just using this as a sample to show you what you have to do. You're going to line up your edge right on this side, and then the bottom side is going to be for whatever your finished units are, size. And we're going to cut. Okay. Then we're going to turn. Turn the ruler around. Nope, 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 wrong, wrong. Hold on. Give me a second. My brain is like fried. And I do mean fried. Okay, there it is. I had to think for a minute. No, that's not it. Here it is, right here. I had to turn it around. Sometimes it takes me a few minutes. You know, I got a lot in my mind. See this little line right here? This is this, it says second trim. So we're going to want to put this diagonal line here along the edge that you just cut. Make sure that second trim line is at the top. This way, both of these tops are going to be cut the same size. Okay. And then trim squared up this side. Sorry about that. So I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to have a ton of these. So first cut along the straight edge. Whatever your finished, your directions will tell you how big to make this according to how big you need your finished units to be. So right now, my cut strip is 3 inches. This one right here. So that is going to be down here. It says cut strip. It says cut strip 3 inches. Finished unit is going to be 1 by 2 inches. So whatever that cut strip is and whatever your finished units you want to be, that's how big you're going to cut your strips. And it doesn't matter if I'm cutting the white or the teal or whatever color combination, you're going to cut them all the same way. There you go. One side. And I'm going to turn it around. Put my second trim line up here. Make sure the diagonal's on the diagonal lines up on the side of the fabric. And then cut your straight. So what that is going to do is give you 2 mirrored sides. And if you were doing the second color, okay, they're going to be mirrored too. So then you would just sew them together. Once you're done sewing them together, and in the next block, I'll show you how to use the ruler to trim them up and get rid of all the wonky sides. Hopefully that makes sense. Oops, sorry. Let me know if you're here. If you have any questions at all, just let me know. So I did all of, let's see, these. Now, other than the split racks, we have already done multiple times. I've done these corner pops for you. All right, so what we want to do, first thing, after you do this center block, I'm going to put the sides on. I'm just going to line these up and sew. The other side, I have a hard enough time just making sure my fabric's on the right side. The older you get, your eyes don't work the same. Now for these, I ironed my seam towards the outside block. We don't have too far to go. There's only 5 blocks after this, plus the border or sashing pieces. So it's going by fast. But wait for my iron to heat up again. It has an automatic shut off, and I don't always remember to get it going. Okay. All right. So here we go. These two were sewn on with the seams pressed in towards the center. So that will give us a nice nesting seam when you're ready to line them up. So I've got the bottom seam going towards the right, the top seam going towards the left, and they should nest perfectly. Put my pin in on an angle so I can sew down this way, stop with my needle in the seam before I take my pin out. I know it's repeat, but it's the easiest way I've learned over the years to get my seams aligned. You spend a lot of trouble trying to line up your seams, and just taking the pin out can be enough to make the seam move. Okay, this way I can start sewing, stop with my needle in the down position right at my seam, take my pin out, then readjust and go further. When I'm going sewing, I'm going to make sure that I do not sew on the left side of the X where my seams are. So I'm going to make sure that this part is up when I'm sewing. See where our 2 seams meet? We want to make sure we're on the right side, but just a thread width or so on the right side of that X so we don't cut off the points right there. Nope, I don't want to go. One of these days I'm going to put the Viking on this table, but it's not my favorite machine. All right, so I'm stopping with my needle down. at the seam, and then I can take my pin out. Do not, and I repeat, do not sew over your pins. It is not worth what can happen. I've seen pins break and ricochet inside the machine, break a needle. If you do it badly enough, you can mess up the timing. You can mess up your bobbin casing. I've seen them break and ricochet towards somebody's face, the needle. It's just not worth it. So make sure you do not sew over your pins. I know we used to do that way back when, sew over our pins, but nowadays it's not worth it. And this seam, I am going to iron towards the center. Look at that, pretty, pretty. It's coming along. This one's a pretty block. I actually like all the blocks. I like the next one too. The next block 20 is pretty cool looking. I have to figure out what I'm doing next. I know we're doing macaw. We just got to get that order finalized and placed. So that's what we're going to do, but I haven't decided what else we're gonna do. I gotta come up with a whole nother pattern. I don't know, maybe we'll do on the bright side. I like that one too. We'll see. I'll put out a couple of more options for you guys. Okay. So now we're done. And I didn't cut off a point. So now we're going to put this side on. This is just two of our side rects that we've sewn together. And I iron these seams open. And I'm going to do two more here. So you see how I did that and how I lined them up. Okay. So in order to get this lined up, what I did, and I found it easier to pin from the back. I put a pin in the center of our flying geese, or I should say corner pop. Then, because these seams are open, so it's a little bit harder to see, then I'm going to put it into our side rack, our split racks. Hold it, my needle up and down, nice and straight. See? Here's my needle. So I'm not going to push the needle sideways or backwards, or I want it vertically up and down. That way I know my seam is exactly where I want it to be. Put my needle in, then you can take the pin out. That's the only seam that I actually pin to line up seam. And actually, I'm sorry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer the pin to this side, because I'm going to sew it from this side. When I'm sewing, I want to get close to this little arrow. That way, I'm not going to cut off my point on the other side. Okay? I mean, it's 1/2 dozen and another, whether you sew it from this side or sew it from the other side. I'm going to sew it from this side. And when in doubt, do a scant 1/4 of an inch first seam. That way you can open it up and see, all right, maybe I need to go a little bit closer. So I hope that makes sense for you. A lot of the times I will do a scant 1/4 of an inch when I have 2 points like this, and I want to make sure I don't cut off either one of them. If you line up your seams, you should be fine, but there's always that chance that something got missed. So often I will do a scant quarter of an inch. Scant quarter of an inch for me, what I would do is just follow the foot, not the guide. Lift up my foot where I need to make sure my seams stay down. Adjust, realign, and keep some. Now, let's see how I did with a scant quarter of an inch. And not bad. I'm probably going to go in now for a full quarter of an inch and just get it a little bit closer, but that's why I said sometimes a scant quarter of an inch is the way to go, just to confirm, one, that it's lined up where you want, and two, to make sure that you don't cut off your seams. Okay. Not too shabby. Now this seam I'm going to iron open. There's a lot of bulk going on right here. And I'll show you what I mean. Go slow. If you have a problem getting all the way across when you're ironing your seams open, do half, turn it around, and do the other half from the other side. Because you don't want to iron your seams that you've already done in the wrong direction. Just go slow. Ironing my seams open because you've got a lot going on right in this point right here. A lot of bulk. So that's why we're going to iron the seams open, just to cut down a little bit on that bulk. Okay. Now, just to show you how we put these together, you can do this one of two ways. You can half of them, all the ones going one direction, iron the seams towards the dark, and all the other ones going in the opposite direction, iron them towards the light. What that will do is it will help you have two nestled seams. Hold on. And then gonna nest the two seams together, put a pin. Beautiful. Okay. This one, this seam, I'm gonna iron open also. Again, just because of that one point, by ironing it open, you won't get a bulky seam one way or the other. Or you can iron it over to one side. If you keep both of your seams, hold on, let me show you. If you have both of these seams ironed in the same direction, then you definitely want your seams to be open here, okay? I have both of these seams going in opposite direction, so it's not as big of a bulk, and I can iron my seams in one direction or the other, okay? That's the difference. If you iron, when you go to iron these together, put these together, if you have both of your seams going in the same direction instead of opposite directions, take a pin and really make sure that you have them lined up. That's why I find it's easier if you do the seams in opposite directions. They'll meet, it's easier for them to line up. It's easier for you to sew it lined up, and it'll look better. Okay? So now we're just going to put these two ends on and then sew this block down, and we'll be ready to go on to the next one. Sometimes I'm telling you, can barely see which one's right and wrong side. My eyes are getting bad. All right. I am going to sew these out. I mean, iron these up. Right. Let's see. Now we only have one more seam to sew. And that's this one. And what I'm going to do is actually, we have two seams. I forgot to do this one. Oh, well. Well, 2 times to do it, get it done right. So I have one seam that's open and one seam that's over. But you still should be able to nest them the same way that we have been doing. So we've got that one. Whoops. And we've got this one. If you have any trouble, just keep on, just go slow. Once you nest these seams, then we'll worry about this one, center one. Just like we did before, we're going to put our pin through the corner pop / flying geese. And then through our center here, hold our pin vertically up and down. Yeah, vertically up and down. There you go. And then take the pin up. I'm going to try it again on this side. Looking at them from the top down, you can see exactly where it's lining up. And when you feel the seam, it should feel flat. If it feels bulky here, that means you've got it lined up wrong. It takes time, but once you learn this trick, you'll be much happier. When you learn to line up your seams, it's like one of the best things in the world for quilting. And it took me a long time. So don't feel like, you'll never get it, because trust me, you will. Again, holding it up vertically. Then I'm gonna put my pin in, take the other one out, be set to go. And I'm just gonna sew down these two sides. Again, if you're not sure you've got them lined up, or well, just do a scant quarter of an inch. I've even instructed my students, if they're not quite sure and they don't want to keep taking out all of their stitches, do a basting stitch. Instead, you make your stitch just a little bit bigger, so if you have to pull it out, you'll be all set. In the beginning, there's a lot of little tips and tricks that you can do. Try and make your quilting and piecing much easier. Fine. See how it did. Not too shabby. I'm okay with that. No, I'm a little off. I'll fix that later on, but let's keep going. Cause we still have one more block to do. Yep. I don't know. Sometimes my machine just doesn't want to work. Voila. Still a little off here. I don't know what it is about that bottom side, but I'll fix it. So basically, I will unstitch from here to here and reline that up. I don't know why. I think it's when my machine decided it didn't want to work, but you get the idea. I think it's going to be time to take this machine and switch it out. But you get the idea. Okay. That is block 19. And now we're gonna work on block 20. All right. And I got another new option, new block to teach you, or a new technique, I should say. My brain is fried. No, it doesn't look like it, but this is block 20. And trust me, it's gonna be cool. See if I can show you a quickie picture. This is what we're doing. Obviously, I'm not doing red and green. I'm doing blue and green. But that's what it's going to look like when we're done. I'm going to show you how to do this part since we did the split Rex in the last block. All right. This is the center of our block. We've got both fabrics going in the same direction. Okay. Now to do that, you're going to do a flying geese. Half square triangle. And hold on. Get my paperwork out of the way. All right, so you know how to make a half square triangle. We've already done that many times. And we're gonna trim it up to using the Tucker trimmer 3 inches. So again, whole numbers on this side of the ruler, half numbers on this side of the ruler. Since we want it 3 inches, I'm gonna make sure we're in our 3 inch mark and our diagonal line is right down our seam. Basically, this is just gonna square it up and cut any of the dog ears off. All right, I'm gonna turn it around. Okay, now we're gonna use this 3 inch mark down here. Make sure it covers our edges, and then it's while still making sure that that diagonal line goes right down our seam. We're cutting very little off, but it really does square up your block. All right, now to get this unit, we are going to use the corner beam ruler. Okay, here's the key, whichever one color you pick, you're going to make sure that one is always on your left side when you start first. So I'm starting with my green. What am I doing? My brain is fried. Oh, hold on. Let me get my brain working again. There we go. So my green is always up here. I've got this diagonal line on the seam. And I'm going to cut that edge off. Okay. Then I'm going to use this. Wait a minute. Did I do that right? Yeah. Then I'm going to use this side placement seam line on my seam to cut this side. There we go. Only a little tiny bit off, but that makes a huge difference. And for your triangles, just like we've done before, put your right sides together or wrong sides together, it doesn't matter. And you've got your side triangle this dark line is your side triangles. Okay. And you're going to turn it around and put the trim up here and cut them. And then you're going to get two mirrored images, two sides. And keep on going until you have as many as you need. So now, here's our unit. Let me make sure I got the right sides. And here are my side triangles. So I'm going to sew those on one side at a time. And then we're going to use that same corner beam ruler to square it up after we're done. This is one that you're really going to have to lay out to make sure that you get the colors in the right place. So. If you can see this. Whoops. Let me try that again. We're going to square this up anyway after we're done, but just so you know what I'm doing. I get just this tiny little corner on this end and this end over here. And if I make sure I come out where this little V is, this will actually iron out to a nice straight edge. All right, let me iron this one over. Move on to the other side. And when I put this side, I'm bringing this corner all the way up to here and making sure I only have a little tiny corner sticking out over here. Now I'm going to iron this one out too. All right, it's pretty wonky. I'll warn you ahead of time, but that's okay. I'm all right with wonky. Wonky is good because we've got a ruler. Move, Noah. That will help us trim it up and square it up. Okay, looks kind of wonky. So I'm always going to start with my point up or to the, what do you call it? To the right, because I'm a right-handed. If you're left-handed, you'd start this way, but I'm right-handed. And see where these two lines cross? That should be the point of your I don't know. This one looks kind of wonky, something. What did I do? This looks even more wonky than normal. All right, doesn't matter because we want, it's going to be, let's see. It's only going to be 2.5 inches, this block. So I've got the cross meeting up here where it should. I've got an equal amount. And these points are going right through the center of my seam. I've got plenty for 2.5 inches all the way around. And I'm going to do one side. That's why I said these can be kind of wonky and you don't have to worry about it. As long as you use enough, the right size fabrics to make them bigger, then you're good. So that's one side. I'm going to turn it around. And I want my 2.5 inch and my point is going to be right there. No. So this one goes here. What I mean by laying your fabrics out, and I'm going to move this down just so we have a little bit of room. You want a pinwheel effect here, okay? But you also want this corner to be the same colors, this corner to be the same colors. These diagonal quarters are the same, just like these are the same. So I've got blue, blue, green, and green. So you're really going to want to lay it out and keep it, so you keep it straight. Okay. Lining this up. You can, I've done this. This is how I do it. I find it's easier. Right now, both seams are going in the same direction. They're both going that way, right? Hmm. Something is not right. What did I do? All right, hold on. Didn't cut this one down all the way. Okay. That's all right. It's too big. All right. I knew something didn't look right. How do I fix it? How do I fix it? Even I make mistakes, okay? Give me a second. Mm, 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 mm. I'm gonna have to do that again because I messed up, okay? I did. I knew it wasn't, but I messed up anyway. All right, one second. I'll do this again really quickly. Oh, come on. All right. Oh, sorry about that. Every once in a while, I make a boo-boo. And where is... Give me a second. It'll take me just a minute to redo this real quick. Hmm. Hmm. Hold on. Be right back. Almost done. All right, hold on. Sorry I goofed, but I did. So what do you guys want to do next? You guys have any ideas as far as pattern or technique that you guys want to learn? Drop me a line because I haven't made up a decision other than the macaw, so I'm going to be teaching something else too. I haven't decided yet. Okay, we're going to do this again as a teaching moment. Ha ha. Right sides together on our squares. Draw a center line on the back. And we're going to sew 1/4 of an inch on each side of the line. That's our half square triangles. On this half square triangle, we are going to iron the seams open. Normally we don't do half square triangles open, but this one we are because of how we're gonna sew the rest of it. If it was just a half square triangle, then you would iron the seam one side or the other. But because we're gonna make a 1/4 beam unit, make sure you iron your seam open. All right. So again, we have our half square triangle. And it's going to be trimmed down to 3 inches. Or I should say squared up to 3 inches. Now we've got our 3-inch mark this way. And our diagonal line on our seam. I always double check just to make sure I have my seam, the fabric cut all the way through before I pick up my ruler. Okay. Now, let me remind myself what I'm doing. So my green is on my left. Whatever color you're gonna, whatever your color is that you start with, make sure that's always on your left. Here's my center beam line 1, which is the dotted line. So I put the dotted line on the edge and make sure the 2-inch line is on the bottom. And cut. That looks better. Here's my second center line. It says center beam trim line 2. That one, you're going to put on the cut line that you just did. And then cut this side. Now it's going to be perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Not perfect, but close enough. Here's my 2 side triangles that we've already done. And I'm going to sew them on one side at a time. Hold on. I'm allowed to make mistakes. I'm not perfect. Nothing in quilting. I don't think anybody's perfect. Nothing in quilting is perfect. It's always better done than perfect. I make mistakes all the time. The trick is figuring out how to fix your mistakes. I'm thick. If you can't learn to fix your mistakes, that's when you got problems. And there wasn't no fixing that mistake. I had to start over. Sometimes you do. Um, but knowing the difference is, it takes a while. There's a lot you can fudge in quilting if you learn the little tips and tricks. So now I'm just gonna sew on my other side. And unfortunately, I do make mistakes, especially when I've had weeks like this, which are like, been a busy, busy week. Now I'm gonna iron my other side. There we go. Let's try that again. It looks much better this time. Okay. So there we go. I've got my X on my tip. And these lines are following my seam all the way down. I got 2.5 inches all the way around at least. I'm going to cut this side first and the top. I'm going to turn it around. We know we want 2.5 inches, so that should hit this edge here. And there's this little 2-inch corner that will fit right into this corner that we've made. Now we're just gonna trim up our other 2 sides. Tried to do this sitting down. I should stand up, but I'm not in the mood. Okay. Much, much better. Let me get rid of my extras. Now it'll work. Okay. Back to what we were doing. So you want these going in the same direction all the way around like a pinwheel. The best method that I have found to line these up is right now we've got both of these seams in the same direction. I will iron one of these seams down, whichever one was my last seam I did, I'll iron it down. That way I can butt this seam and the other seam together and line them up much better. Sometimes, yes, it's extra work to re-iron, but I find it's easier doing it this way. I believe the directions tell you to just line it up, but you know, they're not telling you how to line it up. They're telling you to iron all the seams the way I did originally. I'm telling you it's easier if you just do this one extra step, because now so iron this seam down. This seam is up. Make sure they're going in the right direction. Now, when I turn this around, these 2 seams will butt up against each other and you'll get that nice crisp point without messing it up. Hopefully that makes sense. And it's not too bulky. To me, it's just too bulky with the seams going in the same direction. So now I just have to sew this. Stop before my pin. All right. Now we're going to iron this seam open. But it's beautiful. Great. There it is. See the nice, perfect lineup? Not that it's perfect, but it's good enough for perfect, in my opinion. Okay. Now, how do you set, with both of these seams open, how are you going to line them up? Well, and I'm sorry because I have dark fabric, so you may not see it, but I'll explain how I do this. On this back side of this first one, I'm drawing a mark at the 1/4 inch mark line over the seam. And then on the front of this one, I'm going to do the same thing. 1/4 inch on the seam. This one's actually pretty easy. You don't have to because it's where these connect. So see where these connect right there? That's your 1/4 inch mark. So through my 1/4 inch mark here. Okay. Mhm. It's dark fabric. It's very difficult to see. Do the 1/4 inch mark right here. Hold it up and down vertically, the pin. And then I'm going to put a pin right here and take this one out. Now, I'm going to not even iron. I'm just going to bend my seam over a little bit so that I can line these up. Just with my finger press it over. And I'm going to do this one. Whether it's top or bottom, whichever one is not going to make it bulky. So is this the right or wrong? It's what I do. If you wanted to, you could do a 1/4 inch mark again. So if you want to do it this way, this is another way. 1/4 inch mark over the seam there. Quarter inch mark over the seam here. Anytime you have angles like this is the same technique that I use for like a Bargella or a not a Bargella, a Lone Star, something like that. Anytime you're doing those diamonds, this is a great technique for making sure you line them up. This one has a lot of things to do to line it up. If you do this, it really makes a huge difference when you're done. You'll have less issues, less ripping it out, and it'll look really, really good. There you go. A lot of pins, but it'll make it better. Stop with the needle down at my seam and then pull my pin. I've got these ironed open, so as open seam, so make sure you go slow, and if you have to pick up your foot, bring it down so that your seams all stay the way that you iron them. Iron it with my needle down in this, stop with my needle down in my seam before I take my pin out. Let's see how I did. Ah, not bad. Not bad at all. I think it's pretty good. I am going to go over just a slight, because I did a scant 1/4 inch, but I'm gonna, in the center, make sure I go over full 1/4 inch. There you go. Most perfect. This seam you're gonna want to iron open also. There's a lot of bulk. When you're dealing with a lot of points all going in meeting in the center, you've got to iron the seams open, or else you're gonna have one big giant button. And it makes it harder if you're doing free motion and you're going to start quilting your own quilt. If you have that really big button in the center of your quilt, or in a block center of a block, the foot's going to hit it and it's not going to go. It's going to make it much more difficult for you to do free motion. And if you're not doing free motion and you're giving it to a long armor, I guarantee you the long arm will be much happier if you don't have a big button in the center of your blocks. All right. Here we go. This one is a lot of pieces. Lots and lots and lots. So I always, oops, hold on, put my blocks back down every section just to make sure I'm still I can already see an issue. I messed up somewhere. Oh, that's why it's upside down. Nope. Oh, goodness gracious. Sometimes my brain just gets fried. Okay. This is what I was doing. And I'm sitting there saying, okay, wait a minute. This should be green and this side should be blue. It's because I had it upside down. That's why you need to lay it out every time you do a section and put it back down. So you, whoops. This is what I was doing. I had this upside down like this. So I knew something was wrong because the blue, it should have been blue here and green here. And then I figured out it was upside down. And this is one of the major reasons why I keep on laying it back down and making sure I've got green in this corner, green in this corner, blue in this corner, and blue in this corner. Okay. So what's the next step? Next step is an easy one. We're just going to sew this one on. And then we will put these two sections on, these two sections on, and these final sections. The rest of it, you should know how to do. It's easy. There's no alignment up here on this part because it's just a solid rectangle. The only thing I'm going to do is start sewing from this side so I can keep an eye on my points and make sure all of these seams stay down. Yeah, I keep saying I gotta bring the other machine over here, but I just don't like the other machine. I like my brother and my baby locks. So I'm gonna make sure, I'll take this out and I'll show you. No, it's hard to tell, but we have two seams here when we put this block together, this part. So I want to make sure I don't go over on this side and cross over the X, just like we do with flying geese and such. So I want to make sure I'm either go right through that point or in one thread width on the right side of it. I would love to get a new baby lock machine or a new brother machine, but it's not in the cards right now. Okay, so now I'm going to iron this seam up. That way the bulk is in here. If there is no bulk. And I just double check to make sure I didn't cut up any of my points. Yes, I would love another machine. But this machine's pretty old. This one is the Brother Novus 6000D. Who knows? Maybe I'll see if I can find a used one. I mean, I have a Viking that's not bad. I mean, it's fairly new, but and it works. It's just not. Takes me a lot to get used to it because it does things that I'm not used to. You know, it was my mother-in-law's. And I got it after she passed, but it's just not my. Hey, nothing against people who love Vikings. It's just not, they're just not my favorite. I'm allowed. Everybody's allowed their opinion, and that's mine. Or their likes, I should say. Okay. Here, all we have to line up are these two seams. So I'm gonna pin both of these at both sides at the same time. Oh, booger. All right, this one I'm gonna have to re-iron my seams going this way. Because it'll make it easier to line them up. I think this afternoon, rest of the afternoon, I'm gonna take some time off and play with Legos. In one of those weeks. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna relax. What are you guys working on this weekend? Hopefully something fun. Sorry about that. Let's try it again. Okay. One, two, one, two. Pop and my needle down in the seam before I take my pin out. And stopping with my needle down in the seam before I take my pin out. Whoops. Just not too shabby. All right. These seams can go out because my other seams are going to be in. So I'm gonna iron these seams out. Yeah, let's lay it back down, make sure we've got it in the right direction. Do. We don't want it this way because we've got blue where the green is. We want it this way. So now this seam and this seam are open. So this is how I would do it. The 1/4 inch mark over my seam here. And my 1/4 inch mark is already here where the diamond meets, where the triangle meets. Come on. If I go to that side and here. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I always double check because I'm pretty sure that is the center. But when you iron these seams open, sometimes it's not, it moves them just a tiny bit. So I always double check. Up and down. There you go. I'm going to actually do a scant 1/4 of an inch on this seam because we've got this point here and the point. Actually, do we? No, we don't. Yeah, and these points right here. So, I'm just gonna do scant 1/4 of an inch, double check. It should be fine, but again, I've learned my lesson with having to rip out seams. It's easier for me, in my opinion, to do a scant 1/4 of an inch and then check. And if you're good after that, you can come back and just either leave it at a scant 1/4 of an inch or restitch it as a 1/4 of an inch. Is a little extra work, yes, but it's easier, in my opinion, just to sew a 1/4 of an inch than it is to rip out. I'd rather do the 1/4 of an inch twice. Yeah, we can do this. This is good. I mean, I'd rather sew it twice than rip. I don't like using my seam ripper. Mm, Um, you notice me picking on my foot. That's because I want to make sure that this seam stays open. I don't want to sew it closed because then you're going to create bulk. I ironed it open, so I want it to stay open. That's actually pretty good. Not too shabby. I actually can come in with a full 1/4 seam on this side and we'll be good. Like I said, you can always do a basting stitch rather than a 1/4 if you, I mean, a scant 1/4 first if you want. Alright. We're gonna iron this seam out because our other seam has been ironed in. So this seam here, we've ironed the seams towards the center. This one, we're gonna iron our seams out from the center. Not too shabby. If you really wanted to, you probably could do an iron it open, but I don't think it's gonna be too bulky there. If you feel that it's gonna be bulky right in the center where it's hitting, just iron the seams open. I don't think mine is gonna be bulky, and it'll make it easier lining up the last two pieces if I iron the seams out. Almost done. 2 more stitching. And we'll be done. All right. Got 2 more seams. So this one's an easy one because all I got to do, I've got 2 seams nesting in opposite directions. And you can definitely feel it. If it's bulky, you know you've got it lined up wrong. So I'm going to go here, center, and I'm going to eyeball 1/4. Do the same thing here. We're going to do the 2 ends first. Right to center seam, double check. Eyeball 1/4, and if my 2 edges match, we're good. All right, the final seams. No, love, be quiet. Again, I'm going to do a scant 1/4 seam. If you wanted to, like I said, you could just do a basting stitch. Double check to make sure you're all lined up right. I know that wants to go out. Almost done, Nola. I'm just gonna do this one side and I'll let you go so I can take care of Miss Nola. But you get the idea. The other side is the same. Beautiful. All right. Now you just have to sew the other side and you'll be good to go. Sorry about the little mix up, but for one of those weeks. If you have any questions with this block, let me know. All right, just to give you an idea what it's going to look like. Whoops, wrong one. See? Isn't that cool? I just have to sew this one seam, but right now Nola is saying she wants out. All right, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend. You know where I am if you need me, and I'll be posting something soon about giving you a couple of quilt options to see if you want to, which one you want to work on next. Have a great day, everybody.